Hello everyone, after a very much needed break, we will be heading back to the nice old objectified, the nice old, yeah. It's gonna take me a moment, okay, dude, we gotta get to the next, and shoot, I'm not doing it correctly. Oh, go. Oregon. Yeah, there we go. That's better. I'm supposed to be at the last time we left off. We were at, of course. Wait. What were we at? I don't even remember at this point. 16? I'm trying to find out my life. Experimentation, blah, blah, blah. The page. I'm trying to find out, guys. Okay, this is where we were. This is where we, started off. They primarily use the technology to light the snow tunnels. For example, I found while walking that they had made the decision to pour presumably their tax dollars into producing long strings of fairy lights that are embedded just beneath the surface of the snow tunnel's walls and stretch for miles toward the entrance of the township. Walking there was like moving through a dream. I tried to make a small talk with the guide, but I got the cold shoulder. That's not funny. Like I said last time, when we arrived at the township, my feet already hurt. That is not a good sign for the days ahead. But I must prevail. If I pronounce any words wrong, because my vocabulary persists of just wagyu. My vocabulary is just wagyu. I will have to say, if I do pronounce anything wrong, it is all my fault. At last, the tunnels opened into the township itself. Hidden beneath the snow-birch streets of cobblestone, cabins and cottages clustered under a dome of hanging lights. String lights adorned the eaves. Casting a warm glow over the rustic stone. It felt cozy, insulated. 1 second. I might actually go outside, but I don't know. Well, insulated, which was my first real verbal observation. Frozen Bobo was notably the only other bestial object in sight. He greeted me with a small wave. In fact, I am unsure what his assigned animal might be. Very rarely do objects have additional gateway parts, but Frozen Boba does appear to have some sort of tail. He has other interesting properties like icy claws and hooves. Ice also protrudes from the top of his glass, creating a U-shape. Born from this climate, no doubt. I was expecting a thunderous laugh or some similar bold and boisterous energy, but he was quite solemn in his acknowledgement of my words. Sometimes some gentle soul, I presume? But he was all business. He took me straight to the laboratory, the ground floor of which doubled as his home. 1 second. I'm going to move outside so I can be as loud as I want to be. Better. Okay. By the way, at first when I started reading Turtleshell's journal, I thought you had to look at these pages, and I'm insane. You actually got to read down here. I think this is just, I don't know. Oh, there's a birdie. Oh, the birdie flew away. The birdie hates me. Okay, but over that. The lobby of his laboratory was a living room, and lived in it was. As many researchers had come and gone over the years. Frozen Boba let me in and walked briskly past, turning over a photo frame on a worn wooden cabinet so the picture faced down. Moving boxes were scattered throughout the room. He explained that the last head scientist had left many things behind. I knew almost nothing about whoever had stepped down, as I think it might be fossil. As I said, Fort Blanket was a high turnover rate. When I inquired about it, he only grunted. I remember his face in the dim light, half obscured by the bold shadows cast from the fireplace. I looked at him and asked where the smoke went. He said it was fake. Taking a closer look, I found it to be true. It was electronic. He told me to take a seat. I sank into the warm, leather couch, my heated clothes slumping with me. The room had grown hot, so I pressed the small button sewn into the hem of my jacket to turn the heating system off. Tech had warned me the battery might last only a week. Who knew how long I'd be out here? It was a good call because Boba began to describe the night as one of the largest and most perilous wild districts on Earth. Vast ice caves, sudden drop-offs, snow pits that have lain untouched by objects for centuries, if not at all of time. He confirmed my theories, admitting that the lawless king whom he introduced as Morrigan had held the township under her heel since the founding. He wanted my help to record her, something researchers had tried and failed to do for decades. Nothing complete. If Turtleshell's dead because of her, I'm going to actually hate her. Which I honestly kind of like. Never mind. I need to just continue reading. Let me shut up. Nothing that ever changed anything. He said they don't do field research here, and when they try, people usually don't return. He leaned in an armchair, rifling through a yellowed file folder filled with worn records on Morrigan. The papers were stained and brittle, likely older than my parents. Threatening to disintegrate in his hands. I had the urge to grab them before they crumbled, but I kept my posture straight out of politeness. I can quote his exact words even now, hours later. I'm gonna do my best. Multi-present hunter. Philo cannibal. Oh, I knew it. I'm just gonna say cannibal. I'll spare the worst of the details, but in short, Morrigan requires an amount of energy our synthetic species cannot. Why did I always think that said cannot sustain? She compensates by creating life on her own terms. Then she devours it. Aren't you just like taking away and then adding back? That's kind of confusing. Unless I just don't know how it works. And she devours it. He looked me in the eyes and said flatly, "You could die out there." His expression never changed. Mine did. Bro, we can barely see your expression, Turtleshell. Is it? I'm not. You know what? I'm not gonna ask. He asked me to explain multi-present. I stammered something about a consciousness that exists in two places at once. He nodded. Close enough. Wait, that's omnipresent. Wait, that's omnipresent you're talking about. I think. Never mind. He asked me then to divine Philo cannibal. Oh, that's what hamsters do. Not all hamsters. I'm not that smart. I need to start playing scientist. I described it as a mother eating her child. He simply replied, yes. I asked him how he can be sure that these historical records are accurate. He started by telling me a story about a Fort Blanket that once was. In its earliest days of settlement, the population of bestial objects was recorded equal to the amount of hominid objects. As time passed, suddenly there were more bestial objects than hominid. It's hominid. No. But something was amiss. One, maybe several of these bestial objects had integrated into their society from the wild district. Ooh, I think I know what they're talking about now. Welcomed with open arms. In fact, then residents began turning up dead in their homes. Fort Blanket opened its first murder case. Apparently, they didn't handle it well. The town became claustrophobic. Oh, God! Frozen Boba leaned back and clasped his cold hands together. He told me how the town only became more paranoid as generations passed and serial killers kept cropping up. Naturally, they blamed the Wild District objects. These problems didn't start until after they had moved into the settlement. After all, those objects were burned to death. New ones were let in. More deaths followed. Rinse and repeat. The cycle repeated until hospitality curdled into fear. Someone that looks like you killed my mother. And so on, they stopped welcoming Wild District objects. Oh, that's sad. People still had their children. There are no terminals here, so they had to use spawning stones in the Wild District. They would come back and raise their new children. After a few years, despite how careful they were, people began dying again. Boba rose and left the room briefly, returning with a glass of scotch. He didn't offer me any. That was fine. I don't drink. You prefer to stay sober, huh? Though in that moment, I might have. He said they had dubbed these like on my Tumblr, if you follow my Tumblr account and you watch my YouTube channel and you're watching this right now, you know I have an OC called Bread, a child of the night. I love her. I love her so much. She's my baby. Might as well be Morrigan. I'm not funny. I need to just read this. Children of the night. If a child bears little resemblance in animal or object, the parents are expected to abandon it in the cold. Of course, a parent imprints on whatever child they find in the holes of spawning stone. So this was very hard for people to do. Not to mention, nobody wants to leave a newborn to die, regardless of circumstances. Sometimes the town made exceptions. Sometimes there were coincidences. These were not their children. More bodies turned up. Sometimes whole families were burned just to be safe. I asked him why these people were dying. I told him Morrigan passes down a peculiar diet to her children. She feeds, not by breaking down material in her stomach, but by draining life itself. Quote Citrus. I think it's something about, I don't know, something about Morrigan erases. No, he says, I erase. You know what? 1 second. Let me go look at Vampire Gambit. Close enough, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't know where it is. I think I found it. So, basically, he says, I erase, Morrigan obliterates. It took way too long to do that. If you want to know the episode, I think it's 84. My memory is as bad as you don't want to know. Yeah, it's 84. Okay, let's get back to doing this. Let's hope this one isn't as long as the last one, which was 20 minutes long. People still had their children, blah, 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 blah. Where were we? Children of the night. Nobody wants to. Sometimes, yeah, okay. Okay, we're right here. By draining life itself. Plants and animals cannot sustain her or even her children. This became clear when Wild District objects integrated into society and these unexplained deaths occurred. Victims had no wounds, no marks of disease, no clear cause. Deaths like this just don't happen. Then, Frozen Boba got up and he handed me a sheet of paper. It contained the transcript of an interrogation of someone who suspected responsible for the deaths of 2 people. To summarize, as I could not keep a copy of this historical record for myself, the suspect accused of 2 murders never touched food. His rations were tracked, but he never claimed them. Suspicion mounted. Eventually, he was locked up and forced to eat. He vomited, forced again, vomited again. Could not even keep water down. As he starved, he grew weaker. Then one morning, a guard was found dead against his cell bars, drained of life like the others. The prisoner was guilty beyond doubt, though the method remained unknown. Another guard noticed he was rejuvenated when they found the husk. The guy knew it was the end of the line, so he begged for his own life and told the guard that people were all he could eat. They made the prisoner demonstrate how. Frozen Boba handed me records. Descriptions of gruesome objects, experimentation. To be honest, I feel sick remembering what methods they used. They found that he had regenerative properties. They did everything they could think of to him. Then he died. Oh, I know, like, it's probably bad to be a murderer and everything, but that's kind of sad. I wonder who that was. I'm sorry. Frozen Boba had definitely read my face and offered his first and only consolation. We don't do this anymore. To summarize, children of the night can sap a person of their energy until they die. This temporarily boosts a child's regenerative properties and is how they feed. This is very much shown in the actual comic with Citrus, how half of its face gets cut off, and then it just like slowly regenerates and you see his eye again. It was both gross and fascinating, to be honest. Yeah, and then like obviously we see how like he feeds on spool. Just I don't know how many times he's done it because like there's some time skips and everything. Haven't evolved aggressively, doing whatever they must to secure this food and ensure survival. Boba's arms sank back of the couch as he loomed over me from behind, the frame creaking under his weight. I tilted back to meet his eyes as he explained. He described the children of the night as not unlike sea turtles, born into the world and left to fend for themselves as they... Why are you doing an example of turtles? Poor Turtleshell probably feels targeted. Themselves as they race to salvation. They're lucky if they even make it out of the spawning stone, as their mother creates them only to consume them. But nature, relentless as always, has found ways to give them a chance. Spawning stones, desperately compensating with strange adaptations, regeneration, charm, manipulation, disguise. All of those literally go with... A bug just literally ran into my freaking forehead. They grew closer in resemblance to the township's residents, close enough to pass as their own children. He glared straight through me, his expression carved in stone. Then he said that even with DNA testing, he wasn't sure how much longer there would be any difference between us in a molecular level, that we all came from the same stones, and that the stones themselves could not be trusted. His voice dropped lower. Finally, he added, "Now, love comes here to die. Nobody wants to have children anymore. Please help us." I was afraid, but I had no choice. So I asked him plainly what needed to be done. He laid out 3 tasks. First, he wants me to uncover why Morrigan targets the township. He explained that her sentinels, I'm just going to say sentinels because that's what I'm used to saying, sometimes attack the snow tunnels, and further emphasized her multi-presence. How she can scatter herself into smaller pieces. Secondly, he wants photographic evidence of Morrigan herself. Her object, he said, her full physical form. She doesn't really have an object, but when Reach of Ice? Yeah, I think it's Reach of Ice. She looks like a broom. She literally looks like a broom, to be honest. No, like a piece of hay with, I don't know. It looks kind of like a dress, and she disgusts me. In a single record, very poorly. Lastly, he wants me to secure an audience with her. He admitted this might not be possible, but said it was worth the attempt, claiming that some wild district objects alleged to have spoken with her before. Weird. Also, in the comic, I wonder what, the, like, white box, like, next to hers, the black and the white box when they speak, and it calls it sister. Does that mean that Morrigan has relatives, and there might be more of Morrigan that we don't know yet? Like, maybe there's more of her. I don't know. As if my blood could not run any colder, I hesitantly hesitantly agreed to try. I don't want to sleep tonight. I don't want tomorrow to come. That admittedly is the real reason I've lingered so long on this entry. I'm afraid it may be my last. Shut up. It is freezing out here, but my nerves are at ease. I write to you from a polar tent in Sector 3 of the night. The night contains 4 official sectors, each differing in appearance. Sector 1 is a vast ice field. Sector 2 is a network of ice caves. Sector 3 holds pockets of grooves hidden beneath the snow domes. And Sector 4 is what we are looking for. The mountains I was sent on my expedition this morning with a guide. Conversation hasn't come easily, but the guide seems willingly enough to help me navigate and survive. We haven't encountered any wild district objects yet. The region is very quiet. Whoa. We have, however, crossed paths with white rabbits and blackbirds. The guide always steers us away from them, perhaps out of respect or some deeper understanding of what should be left undisturbed. Like, maybe that has ties to the white voice we saw earlier. No, in the other episodes, episode 70, 77, blah, blah, blah. Be left undisturbed. Hiking through deep snow is a challenge, though that goes without saying. What was once tolerable about field work has now become odorous. The weather is merciless. Even when we finally stop to eat, preparing food feels like a test of endurance. We eat quickly before it freezes solid, or else resort to pimicin. I don't know. I asked the guide what pimicin really is. They explained that it is a survival food made with honey, berries, oil, and chicken fat, sometimes salmon fat. It gets the job done, but it is hardly appetizing. It occurred to me that most of their food must be imported, likely from Marshlight Port or the Rings. As for the sights, snow stretches as far as the eye can see. Occasionally, a cornice, a word I learned today, breaks the monotony, or the faint silhouette of frozen pines buried beneath the snow domes. These domes are marked Sector 3 in sheltered plants, animals, and objects from the nasty storms. Why does I say tasty? Okay, this is cool. Here's our photo of the day. I began to suspect that most bestial objects here live in burrows. While searching for a flat area to pitch our tent, we discovered several long abandoned dens. I explored a few, some large and some small. It seems wild district objects have little to occupy them beyond the search for food and refinement of craft work. Many burrows were filled with toppled furniture and wooden trinkets made from all manner of scavenged materials. Not a scrap of food remained, but several furs had been left behind, presumably used for warmth. Skinning mammals is rare in paradise, where gators provide plenty, and furs are unnecessary in the heat. Here, though, warmth is vital. The land being so uneven meant that our tents had to be pitched quite a ways away from each other. Though we remained within the same snow dome, after dinner we would be losing sight of each other until morning. I had actually forgotten to grab my water bottle by the spot where we were meeting up to cook meals. It was advised that we keep those on our person at night so they won't be frozen when we wake up. I do not produce body heat or any sort of warmth, but my specialized gear certainly does. When near the cooking pot, the guide's tent was visibly past a few trees and mounds of snow. I noticed some blackbirds resting on top of the tent. How silly that we tried so hard to avoid them. I fear the poor guide's tent may be covered in poop when he wakes up. Ice cream. Something terrible has happened. In fact, a lot has happened when I woke up this morning. I expected to be roused by my guide, but I was met with silence. I trudged to the cooking pot spot and waited for a while, then went to check his tent. Notably, there was no bird droppings on it. More concerningly, there was no guide. Haha, they took him. This is more longer. This one is 24 minutes, probably because I am taking too long and I'm stumbling over my words. Oh, I love this design. This is cool. Wait. Cool. Actually cool. I waited for hours, trying to assume the best. Maybe he had gone to gather something. Eventually, the terror set in. I couldn't tell our tracks apart. Wouldn't I be able to find my way back home? Surely I could retrace a single day of travel, but he had left all his belongings behind. Was I abandoning him, or had something already taken him? Sensing my desperation as I lingered near the edge of the snow dome, I was greeted by my very first resident of the night. Expecting teeth and claws, I was instead met with simply ice cream. Of all the people I could have expected to meet in a freezing and less wild of them, he carried his own supplies in a woven baskets strapped to his back and looked me over carefully. Before asking if I was alone, I explained what had happened, or what I believed had happened. He nodded solemnly, which I am beginning to notice many folks here do. I then explained why I was here in the first place. He offered to help. I was very surprised because after reviewing Morrigan's records with Frozen Boba, I realized that the hominid people here have an obvious aversion to bestial objects. Unfortunately, that includes me. Hesitantly, I gathered what I... Ugh, my hair! What I... Oh my god! Sorry, it's windy out here. I considered useful, and I left a little behind, in case, if he returns, to at least make it back home. Ice cream was not much different from Frozen Boba in temperature. He was informative, soft-spoken, and a little somber. Unlike Boba, however, he was more willingly to talk about a variety of subjects, much to my delight. He walked through the snow barefoot, wearing little more than the paper wrappings of his objects. I asked if he was always very cold, and he told me that he prefers to be. I suppose that it is only natural for an ice cream cone. He answered most of my questions, but he would not tell me why he was out here alone. Nor how long he had been wandering the night. It must have been some time, judging by the worn state of his gear. I ended up agreeing to stop at his very own hovel to assess the situation properly. Before continuing towards Sector 2, I asked if he had woven the baskets himself. He said he had made a few, but most of his belongings were acquired through trade. He began to discuss the trading economy of the night. In Paradise, there is the Onyx Market. Yes, one of the largest official market. It's one of my favorite. Paradise and Onyx Marketplace are one of my favorite places. I know Onyx Marketplace is in Paradise, but I absolutely love it. My OC Ammonite is from there, and I just absolutely love it. I need to shut up about it. One of the largest official marketplaces in the world, second only to the shopping centers in Anka. I don't know. Tell me how to pronounce Anka, please. While currently dominates in our society, trade remains a global language. Ice Cream confirmed that he trades with Wild District objects for many of his supplies, spending most of his day searching for things of value. In the night, these valuable goods include furs, food, furniture, bones, raw materials, and occasionally art. He confirmed my theories about most Wild District objects living underground and said they are not very aggressive people. It seems very unlike what Wilds in Paradise. I speculated that this difference may be due to the scarcity of apex predator-assigned animals here. Wet Wilds has a competitive ecosystem, breeding some very confrontational carnivores. Most carnivores in the night, however, are quite small and reserved, according to Ice Cream. He had explained that larger carnivores mostly feed on rodents and fish, and that some hibernate for most of the year. The largest of them are said to live on the icebergs. far to the northeast, beyond the 4th sector, and closer to the Arctic Sea that is unmapped territory for us. To be honest, I didn't know there was an ocean up here at all. Apparently, the seas are scattered with floating ice formations where some beastly objects make their homes. I am fascinated by these people who can swim in freezing water and in some cases spend their entire lives beneath the surface. I decided to save my questions about Morrigan for when we reached Ice Cream's abode. Much like the dens and burrows I had seen before, it was a hollow beneath the ground. At the end of the long tunnel, as we approached the living area, the air grew warmer. Not warmer. You know what that kind of looks like, to be honest? That looks like a lot like one of those sea angel things. Transcript. His home was filled with all sorts of things, but what caught my eye most was a painting. He noticed immediately and seemed to brighten at my interest. He asked if I painted, and I explained that I was more of a scientific illustrator. Raising his hand proudly, he told me that he had painted it himself. Aw. He went on to explain how the dark pigments came from the soil where things decompose slowly, and how the warmer hues were extracted from snow, algae, and minerals. Indeed, he has a lot of time on his hands. What interested me most was the subject of his painting. Ice Cream and I sat on a wooden stems on either side of a low stone table as he told me about her. His eyes fixed on the paintings. I will have to paraphrase, but I will do my best to capture a story. When I first found myself here, I wandered northeast toward the Arctic Ocean, full of resentment. I was ready to give myself to nature, to the predators preparing suicide for hibernation near the waters. I wanted to be needed by someone, and no longer wanted to live. When I reached the shore, I stepped into the icy water, as wadded to my waist, and waited. As the large ice floes drifted past, I eventually climbed onto one, curious to see what kind of predator the sea would send for me. I dangled my legs over the edge into the water as I floated away from the shore. Eventually, a predator did find me, but it did not tear me apart or devour me whole. Something rose slowly from the depths, reached for me with an impotence, and pulled me under. At first, I was terrified of dying. Then, I was terrified by her beauty. Oh! Ooh, that's cool stuff. He gestured toward the painting again, this time with a kind of reverence. The beastly object of the Northern Sea, the first and only one in my eyes. Wait, is he talking about Piper? He might be talking about Piper. No, wait, I need to first read this. I could not tell what exactly she was, and she did not seem certain of me either. I think myself may have been the first of the Northern Sea. He told me that this encounter inspired him to keep moving forward, and he began to see that same kind of beauty in everything. He realized he could make art to preserve those moments, to give them permanence, where memory might fall. While he had traded away most of his paintings over the year, this one would always remain. It was his way of remembering her in case one summer, when he returned to the Arctic Sea, she would no longer be there. I shared a pemmican. I'm just going to call it a pemmican. With Ice Cream, who insisted that I take something in return. He offered me a few items he considered cultural significant, including a small woven basket made by a stranger and his own handmade art print. I'll try to keep one on my person so that they can be preserved in paradise as part of art history. He explained that he makes paper from dead fibrous plants and carves wooden stamps to reproduce the same image many times. It was a skill. He said that he had learned from one of the very predators he once sought to be destroyed by, returning to the same spot every year to see his muse. He'd made towering companions who were prolific in art. Settling down for the night, I find I can't see just well enough in the dark to write. I had taken out my sleeping bag and will be resting soon, though my head is full of thoughts about what love and life are meant to be and what I might attain in mine. Eat an ice cream! It's a polar bear like ice cream bar! That's epic! Who is this lady? I'm gonna read this one and then I will be taking a break. I have many valuable things to report, and I am happy to say that I live another day in the night. Ice cream led me into Sector 2, a large network of ice caves beneath the surface of the snow. This path took us directly toward Sector 4, where we most likely to encounter MORRIGAN during my expedition. Despite being buried under the snow, the tunnels were bright enough for both of us to navigate without a flashlight during the day. Ice cream explained that some bestial objects, like rodents on the surface, dive through the snow in pursuit. They often dig deep enough to touch the upper layer of ice where sunlight filters through. It creates pale shafts of light along the ice ceilings, illuminating the routes that get the most foot traffic as a result. He compared the ice tunnels to a neighborhood, saying that many objects choose to live here, especially those with frozen or chilled objects. Since this cold environment is... I'm going to make an OC after this. Guys. Environment is most comfortable for them. In some areas, passages were blocked by thick slabs of carved ice with intricate patterns, indicating that someone had moved into that tunnel. They looked like ornate doors. Ice cream led birds. They freak me out now. I'm sorry, am I trying to make a reference or am I genuinely just being paranoid now? Ice cream led me to one in particular along his usual route and called out for someone to appear. The carved slab of ice shifted to the slide, revealing a colossal bestial whom he greeted as Sam. I shook Sam's hand, or rather her claw, which was large enough that I could only wrap my hand around part of it. She asked Ice Cream, who she referred to as Cliff, what he needed, and he introduced me as a researcher from the south. He described Sam as one of the bestial objects he had met on the northern shore. Sam laughed at this and teased him about the way they had met, about how he wanted her to eat him. Oh, is this okay? So this is not Piper. This is Sam. Close enough. This is just fun. This is beautiful. But yeah, I will check in on y'all tomorrow because it's 41 minutes, guys. I don't think my CapCut can take this anymore.